Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back again with a donation deck list from Francis. This is the green black mid-range list we took through a league last week, and just wanted to run it through another league just to get some more reps, see how it goes, see where some of the faults may lie in terms of numbers. Obviously, this is a pretty mid-range deck that does have a Dark Depths combo finish, so we are running both a copy of Thespian Stage, a copy of Echoing Deeps, which can copy Stage, or of course Depths. We also have Hexmage to interact with Dark Depths. We then have a copy of Life and Loam to get these lands back from the graveyard, as well as Witherbloom Command to return them as well. We have Crop Rotation and Elvish Reclaimer to find them. So although this isn't the main strategy of the list, it is a nice way to win games out of nowhere, per se. Otherwise, we're playing a pretty mid-rangey deck. Still running, 3-4 Reclaimers, Barrowgoyfs, Endurances, Orcish Bowmasters. So it is nice that I feel like this deck does have a lot of answers to things we're currently seeing in Legacy, but I'm just not too sure on the overall game plan. So how fair it is, if it's sort of a half and half deck where it should be just all in on depths and more of a green black depths list than a mid range list. But obviously, we're seeing Barrowgoyf and Bowmasters both pretty powerful cards in Legacy, and it is very cool to explore this space because I do really enjoy this sort of deck. These sort of colors. I think Thoughtseize has a lot of weight right now as well, and just allows us to know when to fire off a Wasteland. Is our opponent on a one-lander, or are we using this Wasteland to actually build out our mana and try to get towards getting a Barrowgoyf in play? One change that I did make to the list we played online was that I did change the sideboard Fatal Push and Shoot the Sheriff to 2 Snuff Outs because we don't have great answers to Murktide Regent, which is a card that I think a lot of people would expect to play both online and in paper. And so having a nice clean out to Murktide is, yeah, I think needed. I also do like that Snuff Out does work off early mana. We can cast as early as turn 1 around days, which is great. And there aren't too many other black cards in the format that we care about to the extent that Snuff Out's going to be bad for us. So I think that it shouldn't put us in too many positions where we are sort of awkward. We did have a shoot the sheriff moment on the stream where we couldn't destroy a opposition agent, I believe, because it's a rogue, and I think shoot the sheriff says destroy rogue. So the other change I made was an additional copy of Carpenter Flowers, and I believe an additional copy of Surgical over the 2 Mindbreak Traps. Trap, obviously very good against Storm decks and decks that want to cast multiple spells a turn. Maybe something like turn 1 Grim into Key into Ring sort of play is where Mindbreak Trap can be really nice. But I did feel like it was just a little bit too narrow for what we see on Magic Online. So just wanted to make sure that against decks like Delver, we can cast all our spells. Obviously, Barrowgoyf is just so good there. And yeah, just making sure that the deck does not sort of fault within itself. So I'm looking forward to running this back. Obviously, this is just a recorded league, so no stream, no chat, no music. Just want to run through my thoughts, not rush anything, and just making sure I'm giving the deck the best chance that I can give it. And when it's a donation deck list, I obviously really appreciate donation deck lists. So I think just making sure that the user as well feels like they're getting the most value out of that as well is what I want. So let's see how this goes, and I'll see you in round 1. So just quickly, one thing that I really like doing as just a bit of a warm-up when I do play matches with decks that I haven't played before, or even decks that I'm just trying out, is using the hand generator on Moxfield to just warm up and just see how the hands go in terms of would I keep them against some of the decks that I expect to face in Legacy. So here we have a 2-lander with a turn 1 play of either Reclaimer, hold up Crop, or potentially hold up the Surveil land to make sure I'm hitting a 3rd land for Barrowgoyf on turn 3. We have a little bit of interaction in Bowmasters. We obviously have interaction in Crop and Reclaimer. The Barrowgoyf double on 2 lands could be a little bit risky especially if we were to fetch a non-basic off the Verdant Catacombs. But I think in the blind, I'd be pretty happy to keep this. Probably going for a basic off the Verdant. It really depends on play or draw, but I think on the play, still just making sure we don't just lose to Wasteland, and on the draw, pretty much the same thinking. It depends on what we draw. If we draw a land, maybe go for the Bayou. Also, if they obviously go there looking to maybe do something end step or interact with the graveyard, holding up the crop's pretty nice. But I think overall, this hand is pretty strong against most decks. Against Delver, I'd be happy, and obviously off the basic would be quite happy with this. Against a combo deck, it does have some interaction early on, and then obviously some nice ways to finish the game quickly. And against control decks, I think just making sure I hit mana and hitting my land drops is pretty key, but essentially having 4 threats that they have to deal with is a really nice position to be in. Obviously, a no-lander, it's really just the Wasteland here, but no colored mana, so this is obviously a mulligan, and if I did mulligan, I would most likely keep this because we are so close to just Hexmage and Depths. We do have interaction in turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 1 Fatal Push potentially if they're a creature deck. So I think I would keep this and probably just bottom the extra copy of Depths. The extra copy of Depths would be nice if we drew into, say, green source and crop rotation, and then had a land we could get rid of if we knew straight away we weren't going to be going for the Dark Depths combo. That would most likely occur against maybe a start that I think my opponent would be on Death and Taxes, which traditionally has a lot of answers to Dark Depths, and so I might not want to play that route. And then obviously having the Witherbloom Command to get back the 1 copy of Dark Depths if we did want to go for it means the second one's pretty obsolete. So here we have a hand that is a little bit awkward in mana base in terms of the Mortuary and the Echoing Deeps coming in tapped. One quick note about Echoing Deeps is that it obviously has this ability to come into play tapped as a copy of a land in any graveyard, but it can also just come into play as an untapped source. So if you're wanting to play around days, you can just play the Echoing Deeps as pretty much a waste. I didn't know this when it first came out, and it actually took me a little while to get into a position where I figured out that, oh, we can just play this untapped, play around days, and it mattered. So that's very cool. But I do like this hand has a lot going for it. Thoughtseize to really know what we're playing against. Obviously, Endurance and Reclaimer if we really need to pitch straight away, and then Fatal Push to deal with any sort of early threats. Thoughtseize and Mortuary also quite nice because it does give us a bit more information about what we want to be moving towards. If they're a spell-based combo deck, then obviously additional copies of, say, Fatal Push just aren't really needed and can go into the bin. Yeah, a pretty nice hand. We'll do one more. Okay, great hand. Turn 1 Reclaimer, turn 2 Witherbloom, get back to fetch land at worst. We have 1 piece of the combo already. We have an Endurance for some interaction. So this, again, I'd be pretty happy to keep. I think I wouldn't be too unhappy about my opponent wastelanding me if we went like turn 1 Reclaimer. So I think I'd be happy to get the Bayou here. And then Bayou Swamp turn 2 means we can either hold up the Reclaimer, play the Witherbloom Command by getting back the Windswept and dealing with something. But yeah, I really like this as just a way to kind of get into the zone without any better way to say it. But it's just a great way to, yeah, have a little bit of a warm up before you start playing, because I think that's really important instead of just jumping in and then potentially making mistakes straight away. Hey team, back for game 1 against Run. Definitely check them out on YouTube if you haven't already, or on Twitch at twitch.tv/Run, I believe. Let's keep this pretty nice. We have interaction with the Bloom Command. We have an early Hexmage into Dark Depths, which is nice. Pretty cool. We also have just pretty decent mana. The nice thing with Echoing Deeps in the list is that we do have a second copy of Bojuka Bog, because we're able to play this one and then crop it away potentially down the line, and obviously copy it with Echoing Deeps. So that's a really cool addition to the deck. I assume this is going to be an Emery. Okay. Which is nice, because I would say the best thing we have here for the Emery is Karakas. We don't have to worry about days, which is nice. So I could just crop here. Or we can end step get a Surveil land. Definitely interesting. I don't mind just getting the Surveil here. Yav is pretty nice for us because we get to go untap, play the forest, and then crop away the forest. I'm going to put this on top. That means we also have one crop for Emery and then one as well for the Dark Depths. Oh, there is no Karakas. Surely, yes, there is. And which obviously is now a pretty nice target for Force of Will. I don't think we're in a position where I want to be able to get away some of the crop here. I think just trying to win with a 2020 is pretty key. Okay. This could mean something like Pithing Needle is coming down. I don't think this deck typically has another way to actually deal with. I'll use the graveyard. Okay. We can take out the pedal here if we wish. And one thing to note is that I don't want to return the Emery before I cast a spell because they can just potentially return this with a... or pitch this to a Force of Will. Quick think. I want to keep the Peatland around because of the Hexmage. Might just want to get back the... Yeah, we're just going to mill, destroy this. Just try to go after their mana a little bit. They're going to pitch an Emery, which isn't too bad. That is also a force that isn't going to be hitting this crop rotation, which is nice. And then next turn we have Karakas open plus Hexmage plus crop. The Emissary is going to be quite hard to get through with the Maritlage if they do get a bunch of 1/1 flyers going. It also buys them time to find another bounce spell like an Otawara. Okay. Here I think we want to just play the Peatland, play out the Hexmage. Pass back. I think the Yavimaya as well is just going to be the card that we get rid of. To attack. Well, we will try. Get depths. Second hit. Wow. There, maybe Otawara. Obviously, they get a free block here with the drone. But it's interesting that they just conceded as if they don't have another way to bounce outside of this one Otawara. So that is quite interesting. Okay. We obviously like the Collector Ouphes, the Force of Vigors, the Deed. Snuff Outs are interesting. I think I'll put them over here. The Endurances, I don't mind just having access to potentially one, but I would say otherwise is pretty poor. Emery is the main way they're going to be dealing with the graveyard, and we typically just want to be able to find Karakas for that. We did see Thought Monitor, so I don't mind the Bowmasters. Also, good ways to get rid of the Thopters. Barrowgoyf, I think, is fine. I think the libraries might just be a little bit too slow in this matchup on the draw. I think Barrowgoyf could potentially come down. I think we're just going to take out pretty much all endurances. Dismember seems reasonable as well, especially an early way to deal with patchwork if they're on a patchwork sort of build. We will keep the Bojuka Bog, of course. The Witherbloom seem great. I'm just going to go down the Barrowgoyfs and try to play a pretty pretty low to the ground sort of. I think this is it. Like Veil's interesting as well, but I think it's just a case of trying to find space without getting rid of too much of the list. I would say in this matchup, trying to get that 2020 online ASAP is pretty critical. So dealing with a lot of their early plays is where we want to be. Just having that low to the ground deck is pretty cool. Force for Collector Ouphe in the opener is ideal. Okay. We do have turn 1 Snuff Out with double Thoughtseize. But I think this is a hand that can just get away from us, especially if they have something like a turn 1 Patchwork. This hand doesn't do too much there. I think we just get stuck if we don't draw another land pretty quickly. Also, if they have something like Emery and then back up with Force, I think I'm pretty happy to mulligan towards something with more mana. And this is exactly what we're looking for. So we have Force of Vigor in the opener. We have the Karakas for an Emery potentially. I think here I'm happy to bottom the Yavimaya, and that way we still have access to Emery. We have Force. We have a spare crop to go and get Dark Depths and still have the combo online with Stage and mana with Verdant. So I'm going to keep this and bottom the Cradle. Okay. I think here we just want to deal with both of these before they get too many 1/1s going. And then hopefully this is an Emery. Nice. And we just have the Karakas here. A Broadside Bombardiers. Interesting. Here I'm happy just to return that Emery. And then we have Thoughtseize to take anything that's really relevant. Spellbomb's pretty good. If we draw another land here, I'm probably... Ooh. Okay. Well, that I'm pretty happy to get the Bayou and play. Force into Karakas for Emery into Collector Ouphe is a very good opening for us. Ancient Tomb would be quite good for them here, and they do have it for the Saga. And we really want another colored source next turn. Just to be able to go Thoughtseize into crop. Okay. Start with Thoughtseize. Emery Thought Monitor. What do I care about here? It's probably the Thought Monitor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we'll also crop and hit the Ancient Tomb. I am just going to hit the Thought Monitor because we have other things pretty much covered by Collector Ouphe and Karakas. Don't get Wasteland. No great attacks. Hit the tomb. Now they do have a clock. If they get a needle here, yeah, that is definitely a consideration. But then they need a natural blue source to play the Emery. They have a 4-turn clock. And Vampire Hexmage, interesting. Wow, the land they drew is an artifact. Huge. Okay, the construct's going to be pretty big here. Unfortunately, we will need to block next turn if we want to use the Verdant. I think we go to, yeah. I think I should have blocked there just because the Liar is a... Don't think we have an out here. Yeah, unfortunately a little bit too slow. I guess if we played the... Yeah, the stage last turn. That's actually a great thought. If we play the stage there and then play the depths of that turn, then we have a 20/20 to block as well as the... Collector Ouphe. I could see going down on a Hexmage and bringing back in a Barrowgoyf just to play that mid-range battle a little better. Yeah, the power of Saga has definitely changed how good Collector Ouphe used to be against these sort of decks because they obviously have another way to win. Ooh. I think again the one land is just going to bite us a little bit too hard. Okay. Happy to keep this and then probably just bottom the Echoing Deeps. Now we have Reclaimer to Collector Ouphe, Bowmasters potentially. I don't think we have an out to that. I think that's just too quick. Yeah. I think that's just too strong. All right, we'll see you for match 2. Hey team, welcome back to game 2. I think this hand is decent. Obviously, the extra depths is pretty much a 6, and I think I'd be pretty happy with this. We have Thoughtseize, turn 2 Boseiju if it's relevant, and then we have obviously Endurance as well, so pretty happy to see where this goes. Potentially even lead on the Dark Depths at some stage to potentially get a Wasteland out of our opponent's hand. But at the same time, it does put us back a bit. And this might just be Merfolk. It could also be Cephalid. We'll see what's happening. Thankfully, Swamp Thoughtseize doesn't give away too much about us either. Okay. Assume they play the same island. No. Interesting. Well, that's pretty nice. That allows us to... I didn't actually need to fetch here, so I'm just going to go for the Mortuary. I shouldn't have mortuary it either. Sorry, that's just pretty terrible because now we can't play around days again. Apologies. That is just a little bit of a brain fart from me. Okay. We will take the tide and then hopefully not care about the rest of their hand. The tide obviously does interact with our lands, so that could be a little bit tough when we do have double black for Hexmage. I hope they go after the swamp, and they do. Okay. Now we still have access to Boseiju into endurance, which is nice. I think I will just take out this right now. Ah. Here we can pretty much 6. Interesting they didn't put in the Silver Guild because now they have to draw into a Merfolk to be able to draw the card off the top. Okay. 2 cards for action. Nothing. Okay. Gonna lead on the Hexmage. Play the depths. I don't think what we have to play around. I would assume Wasteland, so I think upkeep we are just going to make this 2020. I'm not too familiar with the Merfolk that are, like, they obviously tap, but I'm not sure if any bounce. Like, it might have to be land into Sinker de Stupor. I'm not having a good thing. But hey, a huge thank you to Francis for the list. I have really enjoyed playing it. It is very cool to be on the back foot, I would say, in a lot of matches, but have to kind of like find a way to get there. Okay. Sure. Happy to see what this is. Another master. The 4 blocks will obviously put in the endurance and see where we go from there. I'm not going to target. I might just target them. I don't think it actually matters. I do like having the extra land for us potentially. Other merfolk you control, also Nightwalk, pretty much the same. Well, if they have another lord, wow, that's it. Oh, we got a 1. Oh, they have 1 card left. Wow. Very cool. All right. Dismember and Snuff Out, of course. The carpets are kind of interesting. I do like the deed, especially seeing they have a lot of 1 and 2 mana creatures. The libraries seem a little bit slow, fortunately. Thoughtseize on the play, I could see coming out, but a card like True Name is going to be an issue outside of Deed. I don't mind a carpet. I guess Veil also stops a lot of their interaction with the Marat Age, which I think is just a great way to go. So potentially going down on Bowmasters. And then something like, I think Witherbloom does a nice job of keeping our opponent off things like Pithing Needle or other ways to interact with our combo. So I think we'll take out the Bojuka Bog. That's obviously not needed. Collector Ouphe's kind of interesting, obviously hitting Vile, but that's about it. Good Seeker. And then maybe just the Bowmaster. I mean, it does deal with some attackers as just being 2 power, with an extra if needed, being deal 1, block with 2 1/1s. This is like a turn 3 combo. No actual interaction, which is a little bit scary against Merfolk. And I think we do want to mulligan potentially towards something like a Fatal Push or Snuff Out at least, just to have that, because I would think, especially winning with Dark Depths in game 1, they'll have a nice answer to this in a hand they keep. That's kind of my reasoning for mulliganing. This, I don't mind. It is a 1-lander. It does have Snuff Out and Reclaimer or Crop. But against obviously a Wasteland deck, most likely, it can be a little bit awkward being just a 1-lander. But going to 5 is pretty rough as well. So I think we'll keep this and then potentially bottom the Crop, just because then we have another one backup. We do have Reclaimer as a pseudo copy of rotation. The Endurance is just a nice creature to have as just a 3 dropping a 3/4 body as well. That's a nice pickup. I think here we actually want to go with Verdant, just to turn on Snuff Out from as early as turn 1 if needed. And then I just want to go for Mortuary to make sure we hit another land. And then from next turn we have Reclaimer with Veil open, which is pretty nice. The nice thing about Snuff Out as well is that we don't really have to worry about it. It's always going to be castable. I'll put that on top. We do want to be finding lands pretty. Land, Reclaimer. Hold up Veil, hold up Crop, hold up Snuff Out. I think here we're pretty happy just to Veil in response. Now, this isn't a creature that I really care about for Snuff Out. It's really going to be the Lords that I care about the most. Interesting. They're going to hold up the Wasteland. Did not expect that. Honestly, here I'm happy just to hold up Crop Rotation plus Reclaimer activation. Maybe holding the Wasteland shows that they don't have a great answer to Maritlage. Okay. Okay. Allow this. And I might try to snuff it out. Still no Wasteland. Thing. I don't want to get hit by another Tidebinder, but I can't really play around it too effectively. Now they know that I can make this bigger creature. Do something a little bit tricky. Drop this away. This is now a 3/4. Okay. And then I'm just going to get a fetch. This at the Talon gates, I think. Can you imagine a carpet off the top? Would he bring in both? Yes. It was a thought of also moving towards just getting basics with my Reclaimer, but a little bit awkward knowing about Tidebinder as well. Okay. That's a real threat. We're just a little bit too far off mana for this deed to be able to deal with the True Name, because it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Yeah. Unfortunate. I don't want to change anything. I'm pretty happy running this back. Double Wasteland a little bit rough against our hand of 3 drops. I think the carpets will help, but obviously need to get them both. And being a non sort of brainstorm ponder deck, they can be a little bit hard to put together. There's some sort of thought. There's some thoughts of Thoughtseize post board because of True Name and a few other cards just to know to play around. But I do like the Bowmasters does deal with a few of their creatures while also providing creatures on board. Loam also nice against their early Wastelands. Witherbloom Command dealing with Vials quite nice. Potentially a creature as well. Okay. Happy to keep this. Lead on the Verdant. And most likely just go for the Veil Land. Pretty happy to put that on top. Just pass with Bowmaster up. Surely they have another land. Okay. Okay. Could attack with both. If they have like a Merfolk Trickster, we can then kill it with Witherbloom. Could also just try to get the Barrowgoyf down. But could also try to do that next turn around Days, which is nice. Maybe then I am just happy to play the Barrowgoyf. Get it into play. I'm not really doing too much anyway, otherwise. I'm gonna shuffle. Okay. Endurance is pretty sweet. We'll play a Wasteland so we can play around Days. Seven cards for my a little bit tricky how good a True Name does just clog up the board. Tap out here. Interesting. Huh. So we can Talon Gates away the Master here to destroy the Silvergill, which I don't mind. That's pretty. This one. Is pretty strong. 7. Could keep the Wasteland for a Wasteland on the depths, but I think I'd rather just play the depths here in case we draw into stage off the top. Okay. Hit them. I feel like they're trying to find a land there potentially. They do find a Wasteland. Oh, attack. Hmm. I don't mind the mill first. Then attack with both. This mana could be other Lord as well. The one that flashes in. Don't have anything great for that. I would love to try to get that with the Witherbloom, but obviously the Master of the Pearl means that stays alive. So let's start with Witherbloom. And a drain. On a Boseiju. There's the stage, but this is like working out quite well. Barrowgoyf now 3/4. Get to attack him with both of these. Been having a good think. Very cool to see Merfolk. Big respect to my opponent. Obviously not the easiest deck to take a trophy in 2025. Get a Reclaimer. Okay. And we will just hold that. Pass back. It still has 6 cards in it. Wasteland for the Dark Depths. It's 6. Even just beats with the Reclaimer and the Endurance could get there. So there is a world where holding up the Wasteland keeps them off something like double spell 2/2 drops, which is quite nice. Tabernacle is definitely interesting against Merfolk. I was thinking about that game before, and in game 3, Tabernacle out of the board would have definitely come in, and having the crop them, and that would have been a semi-out to that situation, but obviously we're on a budget here. But I do think that because of their mana base being so hard to interact with, Tabernacle not the best against this sort of deck. I'm just going to hold back. I think here we're just going to attack with the Barrowgoyf no matter what we draw. Another Reclaimer. Okay. And we go. Think. Go. Play a land. 1. Fetch. Essentially just getting the forest in case they run back to basics. Surgical on Barrowgoyf. Do I care about that? Not really if they're at 6. I have tapped a little bit awkwardly in that I won't be able to double spell Reclaimer. I guess there is a fetch on the stack, so. I could Endurance myself, getting rid of a Reclaimer, and then just cast both Barrowgoyf, or cast Barrowgoyf and get it into play. I feel like their play was to bounce and then extract. But I think I'm actually happy to try to endure it myself. We'll see if they want to force this. Get the basic, and then use this. They can't go after my mana for the abduct. And now we have instant creature land in the graveyard still. There is a thought that at 4 life, the other endurance, or the endurance and the other reclaimer are actually just as good of a clock as the Barrowgoyf. But I like that this still allows me to hold up the 2020. Nice. We'll play this. We'll attack with the Barrowgoyf. Fine. Trade. We'll Wasteland this. Play this. Novels. which I feel like they have an answer to if they did tap off the Wasteland. It's fine. Doesn't matter too much. We are just going to get a Dark Depths into play here. It comes in with no counters. Now if we find removal for the Harbinger, then trigger. I think we will just cycle this Veil if they cast anything. Okay. Still nothing great to do here. I think we will just... Yeah, maybe just in case they kind of feel like they have everything in play that they need. Yeah, maybe it comes back to that endurance pitch reclaimer line and just maybe allowing them to have the Barrowgoyf. I feel like Barrowgoyf's so good in the matchup. But we can't really grow it too much, that's the issue. It must have another blocker. We have 4 here. We can also just get some lands out of the deck by activating the Reclaimers. Might as well get the Nurturing Peatland in case we get rid of the Harbinger. Big draw step. Tough. Tough. Well, hopefully we can bounce back and potentially get onto the board. We'll catch you in game 3. Hey team, we're on the play with a pretty nice hand. I would say this is probably one of the better openings of this deck because we do just have a quick turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Hexmage line. So pretty happy to keep this. And just hope that it's relevant. There's a few decks that do still have answers to this sort of start, but we'll see where this goes. Okay. This is probably just going to be a hit on the Tamiyo. Although I could see the Brainstorm being the hit just because it's the card that we care about. Tamiyo is a blocker for a turn, potentially. Turn 1 Tamiyo, turn 2 Hexmage, make the depths. They draw, obviously, Daze. That's a little bit awkward, but we can't really do much there. I think it is that the Brainstorm finds more cards, that if we take the Tamiyo and they just go land, hold up Brainstorm, then obviously that allows them to find Daze. So I think we'll take the Brainstorm here. We also have Crop Rotation into Karakas. Right. We are just going to get rid of this right now. Just because of Wasteland in their deck, most likely. Holding back, which is a great sign for us. Think of my mana, if they do have some sort of force effect, there is a world we just want to get rid of the Urborg and save the green source for the Reclaimer. Let's go and get Karakas. And this. Nice. Very cool. Blue-black tempo. I think we still want the Snuff Outs for, maybe not for Tamiyo. The carpets are great. I don't mind the Dismember. I don't mind the Veils. I think we can drop down on at least one library. Fatal Push, Thoughtseize is still fine, but I could see Thoughtseize coming down. Hexmage also being an answer to Tamiyo is quite nice. Could be, yeah, just a little bit of a... I mean, we have Witherbloom Command as well. It could honestly be Boseiju. There aren't too many cards that I'm too worried about from that perspective, and still 26 lands is more than enough, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. Deed's interesting. We'll see how this goes. Mana, pretty happy with this. Mana with Veil, turn 1 Reclaimer if needed. Okay. I am pretty happy to run out the Reclaimer into like a Fatal Push, just because of how much we have in terms of land to threats to come. But I don't think like holding up, like if they don't have the Fatal Push, then it's great to have the Reclaimer online. Oh no, Tamiyo. Here I am just going to hold up Barrowgoyf. Sorry, hold up Veil and then hopefully Barrowgoyf next turn. Ooh, Thoughtseize. Sorry, they are Brainstorm locked, which is quite nice for us. I'm just going to pass back here. A Barrow. I am pretty happy to try to just start slamming Barrowgoyfs. Obviously, Daze isn't something we can play around right now, but we just have a bunch of 3-drops, so we just have to start throwing onto the battlefield and hoping one sticks. There's the fetch land. Okay. Interesting. They didn't want to fetch last turn. Untapped source is pretty great. Now we have Veil open as well off a Bayou. Most likely turning on Fatal Push here. All that. Okay. Do miss. Ooh. And Loam is pretty interesting. Kind of feel like Barrowgoyf just around Daze. And I don't want to turn... I guess they can turn on Fatal Push themselves. I'm going to go after their mana. One card left. There is a world where I want to upkeep Endurance them just to keep them off Murktide, but I think I'd rather see if I can untap and cast one around Daze. Just that one turn. In? Nice. Very cool. We're on the board. See you for match 4. Hey team, we're on the draw with a pretty interesting hand. We have access to Witherbloom Commander's early interaction. We have one piece of the combo. But I'm not too sure of like the plan of this hand. We don't have access to the Wasteland with the Loam. We don't really have another way to venture towards Dark Depths. I think I'm actually pretty happy to mulligan this towards something with a bit more play to it. Okay. This at least has like turn 2 Bowmasters or Witherbloom plus Endurance turn 3. I'm going to keep this and put back the Bojuka Bog to make sure we have decent mana. Most likely going for a basic here. And probably the Forest if it is a Blood Moon deck, because then we have access to Boseiju. But if this is more of like a Karn Forge deck, that can be a little bit harder to deal with. And it is going to be most likely that. Okay. Interesting. Like a Bluetron list potentially. Blue Post. Okay. I think best card here is probably just Wasteland. Trying to find that with the Mortuary. The Barrowgoyf is. Hmm. I kind of like just holding up Bowmasters here, especially if they're a one ring deck. Obviously, they do have Force, but they will need another blue card for that as well. Pretty happy just to get this off the board as well, if possible. I'm gonna force a pitching a Tide Bind. Okay. Missed a land drop. That's pretty huge. Let's dig for a Wasteland. Do you find Boseiju? Okay. I think now we just fetch for a Forest and play the. Feels like a Chalice. That's going to be fine. Especially with the Reclaimer already on board. Okay. Hmm. Now we can potentially Boseiju the Chalice and then crop for Wasteland. But is that good enough? Could just be Barrowgoyf this turn. Currently have 1, 2 lands in the graveyard. Hmm. I assume they would run at least an island. But is giving them an island better than something else? Because like Stock Up is definitely a card that I'm worried about here. Pretty happy to attack first. See if they do anything. I feel like that's a free damage. Well, they don't find the land. Interesting. So I assume this is a matchup where I want the Collector Ouphe and the Force of Vigors. Snuff Outs are pretty interesting. Like the Agent's pretty interesting. I'm going to have a quick look at MTG Goldfish. See what this deck is all. I believe it's up there in terms of metagame. Blue Cloudpost, I believe this is. They're on Chalice. They won the One Ring. So Collector Ouphe looks pretty strong here. Huns and Ugins are going to be tough, but obviously access to Wasteland is going to be good. Mulligan's Command, Force Negation. Not too many actual search effects. Unfortunately, they use this art, so I can't actually read it. But I don't think this actually search. Oh, it does search, but I think that's not a reason to bring an opposition agent. I think, honestly, it's probably just the Veils and the Ouphes, and don't care about the forces because we have so many outs to those. And then it's probably something like the endurances that are cut. I could see like a library coming out. Deed's interesting against their 0/1 creatures. Could be a reason to bring in Dismember. We want to deal with Flaring. Maybe Justing. Like Surgical on one of their lands is pretty interesting, like the Plano Nexus. I don't think that's where I want to be. It could just be an Endurance still in the deck. Getting things back from the graveyard back into the deck can be relevant. Okay. Having access to Wasteland is quite nice, but then also Hexmage with depths. Now we get to lead on Verdant Catacombs and then just hold up the Surveil land. Hopefully finding another black source for the Hexmage. I probably just want to search now as well in case of believe Tidebinder can hit my fetch land. I think we're just looking for mana here. Yeah. Reclaimer off the top would be nice, or Thoughtseize. And then the ability to Wasteland in the same turn. Like a 1 mana spell here would be strong, obviously. Yeah, there's our second black sword. I am pretty happy to Wasteland. Am I? I think I'd rather just move towards like Bowmaster into Hexmage Dark Depths. Bowmaster is decent against the ring, and it's decent against Khan as just pressure. Should probably have also fetched. Here we are. Gonna force that pitching a sink. It's good for us. That is one less way for them to interact. Thoughtseize is pretty sweet. Taking the turn off just to see what they have. I don't mind that. Playing the Wasteland first means we can hold up Bowmasters if relevant. key command draw the card? I feel like it might. Draw, yeah. So I might as well play this in response. King them, and then get rid of one of the tokens that is created by a command. Pretty happy just to take the Dismember here. Maybe not. Maybe the ring is actually where I want to go. Like, we do have the Bowmaster. The ring just draws so many cards if they have another way to deal with this off the top. Yeah. I'd rather just make sure they're not casting the ring most likely next. Find a key command. Pretty good with the Dark Depths. Okay. At least they're just using it now. X. The Depths. Take him off the tomb. And potentially just go for it now because of Tidebinder. If that interacts. Crap. Don't have colored mana. It needs to find a key command. Nice. All right. Well, let's see if we can finish this up 3-2. That'd be really cool. I'll see you in the next one. Hey team, back for game 5. We have a decent hand here of just Thoughtseizes into Barrowgoyf, which I don't mind. We do have one source of green for the endurance, but I think all in all, pretty happy to keep this hand. The Urborg really tying it together, I feel. Especially giving us the out of just turn 1 Thoughtseize and then off the top Hexmage over 2 turns. But it might not matter. Here we go. Ooh, this is going to be a interesting. Okay. Wasteland would have been pretty cool. Turn 1 Trinosphere, turn 2 most likely. Creature is pretty strong, but no. God. I probably wouldn't mind a Wasteland here. Close. Let's go with Urborg, and then next turn we can play Hexmage and Dark Depths. Find Wasteland, they play Wasteland. Play the swamp, run it back. City of Traders. All right. Another Trinisphere is fine. All right. We know that they have Wastelands. We are just going to make this now. Just hope. And then, to be fair, we have Barrowgoyf next turn if needed. Nice. A great steal. A great steal, to say the least. I think these are going to be great. I think these are going to be good. I think the endurances can most likely come out. The libraries are probably just low. Bowmasters are like a little bit awkward, but we don't have too much that's better. Deed dealing with their Chromox and etc. is pretty cool. Collector Ouphe is like a small creature that I don't mind. I think it's probably better than the Bowmasters. I think we'll try something like this. Yeah, again, Hexmage Dark Depths really showing its power in this sort of deck of just having that unfair out. Okay. Turn 1 Thoughtseize isn't the worst. Or Dismember. So one cool thing is next on turn 2, we can play Talon Gates, get rid of this, and then probably cast what we want to underneath it. Okay. I'm leading on the Urborg because it just turns on Crop Rotation or Dark Depths off the top. Right. I assume here it's just going to be Wasteland. Back. Pretty nice pickup. Now they have a City and Unknown. Hmm. So let's play this. Take out this. Then remember this. Might as well attack. It is. It's pretty good. That's going to be lethal. I think we're just going to run this back. Honestly, I don't think we have too much to change. Potentially like a Force of Vigor on a Mox would be nice before they can tap for mana. I think the best sort of opener would be Reclaimer off of Fetch Bayou and then also holding up Snuff Out. That'd be exactly where we want to be, especially if they play a initiative creature straight away. No black, unfortunately. Or like no green. Pretty high roll. I'm pretty happy to see where this goes, just for science. Just to say, turn 1, Swamp, holding up Snuff Out. Turn 2, Hexmage, we have Force of Vigor to throw, and then we do have like get Maritlage off the crops. Pretty happy to keep this. The Swamp turn 1 plays around Wasteland, which I like, although it does turn off the ability to go Urborg into Dark Depths off the top. Exactly. Still think it's just going to be pass here. Happy to pass here with probably just Forest. We are getting rid of it anyway. Interestingly, they used a Spirit Guide for this. What do they name? No, not probably not Wasteland. Probably Hexmage. If they're really scared of that. Reputation. That's pretty good. Does slow us down a little bit, but we do have Force of Vigor as well. Pretty happy to hit that now. I think now we just want to go Force, hit this. They have the Wasteland in play. Land. X. Drop this away. Dark Depths. Back. Pass and just hope. Okay. Nice. Well, we finish 3-2. Which isn't too bad. Let's go back to deck tech. All right. So there were definitely times where I felt like with how good the Dark Depths Hexmage plan was to just win games, that I did want to go more into that sort of combo and like protection, the extra crop rotation, maybe some Sylvan Safekeepers, instead of just having it as a kind of a naked combo and like, okay, let's hope they don't have it. Or, obviously Thoughtseize does a little bit in terms of making sure they don't have it, or Reclaimer holding up Talon gates by some time. But I do kind of wonder when it comes to like Black Green Turbo Depths, what makes this a better depths deck? Probably not a whole lot. It does have a plan B, which is nice, but Barrowgoyf's in the sideboard of something like a depths deck isn't unwarranted. I do like the thought of just like I love the thought of green black depths mid range being a viable deck in Legacy. Maybe not top tier, but something that players can just put together if they're a fan of a rock style deck. And I do think that a lot of these cards do that quite well. What we don't have access to is mana acceleration, which can be a little bit awkward when we do run a fair amount of 3-drops. So no ignoble hierarchs as an example. And then obviously there's kind of that other side of it of if you're playing a mid-range deck, then obviously the more Cradle control lists that aren't running natural order and are just running White of the Reliquaries and Grist and a lot of sort of mid-range cards that are just really good within the green-black space. But I do really like Francis's take on just, can we get a green-black mid-range deck in the format? And I think it does have potential. I wouldn't see it winning a challenge anytime soon. And that's just because there's so many mid-range decks out there that run blue and are just so much better at grinding that it's really hard to keep up. Like, we were very lucky against blue-black to get there without them putting on the engines, and a big part of that was Hexmage. Yeah, potentially the 3-drop. Maybe moving more towards the 2-drop slot would be kind of cool. I'm not too sure where that space could be. The libraries I found were just a little bit too slow against some of the decks we played against, which, coming from me, I love Books. I think Books is one of the best green cards ever printed. And I do typically play it. But I did find today it was just there's a lot of matches where taking that 4 life or taking the turn to play it is a big cost in itself. So in saying that, I love playing this. I really like the challenge of it. I think it's a great challenge to not play a blue deck in Legacy, hands down, or like a straight combo deck. And so to try to kind of give yourself that your opponent's that head start and trying to like fight back is a big appeal to me in Legacy, and a big reason why I love Maverick, because it's a deck that no one really takes seriously when it comes to top tables. But if you don't take it seriously, then it's going to come back and bite you. So I do like this sort of style of deck. The surgicals in the board was just really to have extra graveyard hate on top of the endurances, but could potentially be something else like a ghost vacuum, or something just a little bit more ongoing than just holding up surgical, which kind of endurance does the same thing in most cases. So changing up your graveyard hate in that way could be good. The Snuff Outs were nice. I did like the Snuff Outs, and still a pretty budget option when it comes to this deck. The Veils were nice, even just to cycle, but obviously to be able to have uncounterable spells is fantastic, and keeping a Thoughtseize at bay as well is pretty sweet. I think the 2 Collector Ouphes were actually pretty strong. Would have been nice to have a bit more game against the 8-cast deck, but I think all in all, the list was pretty sweet. So, Francis, a huge thank you once again. If you do want to know more about donation deck lists, you can find that information on the Green Sun Zenith in the top navigation. But yeah, you'll find everything else in the video description. Have a great week ahead. I'll catch you guys soon.